Here are 5 tips I wish I knew before playing Valorant that would have made my experience ranking up faster and more enjoyable. The first tip I wish I knew is what I like to call the Valorant buddy system. This is a very simple concept to understand, but most new players, including myself, don't think about it. When I first started playing Valorant, I played it as if it was a 1v5 game. I was so used to battle royale games or games that let you respawn that I unknowingly developed this mentality that all my gunfights are individual battles. I thought every engagement was a 1v1 fight where the better player should win, but this idea goes out the window once you start playing Valorant. You should prioritize taking gunfights where you are with your teammates. This literally means shooting enemies with your teammates instead of doing some complicated strategy or lurk to isolate a gunfight. Unlike other games, in Valorant, you can make gunfights unfair very fast by simply having one teammate with you or by following a teammate. In really low elo, this may not seem like a big deal, and you probably won't be punished for it. However, when you start climbing the ranks, you will quickly realize that you can't keep winning your solo gunfights. That's when you have to consider if you use the buddy system correctly. You see, in higher elos, people have high levels of non-verbal coordination. This is a direct result of understanding the buddy system. Players look at the minimap and understand where they are positioned in relation to their teammates. If they are not in a position to directly play off one of their teammates, then there's a high chance they are taking a risky gunfight. Playing off your teammate means having the ability to take a gunfight the moment your teammate takes a gunfight, by either peeking with your teammate from the same angle or peeking off your teammate from a different angle. Many times, you need to optimize your position by paying attention to what your teammates are doing instead of only focusing on what you want to do. I wish I understood that the buddy system automatically creates coordination in the team without needing to call some strategy. Let me give you 2 examples. When I was in gold, I used to lurk a lot and try to flank often. And guess what? My lurks and flanks actually worked. However, the problem was that these lurks and flanks gave me this false sense that I was doing something correctly. I mean, after all, I won the round, right? Well, the reality is that while my flank or lurk did work, my teammates would be dying on sight. Then it was up to my flank to clutch the round, and you can't always get away with this as you start reaching higher elos. If I never flanked or lurked in the first place, I could have traded out my teammates when they were entering onto site, or even prevented teammates from dying in the first place, which would have given an even higher chance of securing the round. A second example is when you see your teammates starting to overheat in the post plant, or when they are aggressively peeking on defense. Instead of playing away from your teammate, try to go next to them and take the gunfight with them. This is one way to compensate for teammates making bad plays. Now, there are exceptions to this rule, and that's for you to decide during the round. If you see your teammate about to do a blatantly obvious dumb play, like run into a smoke while there's a sage slow and a molly in front of him, please don't try to follow that up. You can't help your teammate in that situation, and you're just gonna die. And sometimes going for a flank or lurk can be a great play. Plus, in low elo, you will have a lot of scared teammates and people who will bait you, so many times you need to take multiple solo gunfights to win rounds. But the point is, in low elo, I was so focused on how I could position myself for solo kills. But as I ranked up, I instead needed to focus more on how I can play off my teammates' positions to get kills. And before I move on to the next tip, big thank you to the sponsor of this video, GOSU Academy. GOSU Academy provides you with professional coaching, including players who were actual pros. They offer multiple opportunities to improve your gameplay. This includes training methods, advanced theory lessons, and VOD reviews taught by some of the best in the industry. Even better, you get to play in weekly 10-man custom games guided by those same coaches, which is a nice change from the solo queue jungle. Plus, every month, GOSU Academy brings in coaches from franchise teams to give you exclusive lectures. So if you're determined to become a better Valorant player and want to be surrounded by like-minded gamers instead of many toxic ranked teammates, sign up with my link for a free 30-day trial. In just 30 days with GOSU Academy, you can make improvements to your game that could take you 6 months on your own. So why not try it out? It's an awesome deal, and I'd love to see you guys benefit from it. The second tip I wish I knew is arguably the most applicable to new Valorant players, and this is to stop, and I mean please stop, peeking angles or taking gunfights while pressing the W key. I don't know why, but when I first started playing the game, I really didn't understand what it meant by peeking with counter strafe. This is because most other FPS games do not have this concept. In games like Call of Duty, Fortnite, Rainbow Six, Overwatch, and others, you can press the W key along with your A or D key while shooting, and you will still be accurate. So because of this, I didn't really realize how much I pressed the W with the A or D key when taking gunfights in those games. But in Valorant, you get absolutely destroyed if you press W with A or D during a gunfight. You cannot walk around the map as if you're playing those other FPS games. You need to hold W to get close to an angle, but the moment you are ready to expose yourself to an angle, you need to let go of W and then solely press A or D to peek. Do not use any combination of W and A or D before preparing to take a gunfight. Holding W just before shooting completely ruins your first shot accuracy, makes you an easier target to shoot at, and is another reason why you start to panic crouch spray. If there was one tip I could give to a new Valorant player who wants to get better at winning gunfights, it would be to stop pressing W to peek into a new angle. And by peeking into a new angle, I simply mean exposing your character to positions where enemies can be playing. I've made a really in-depth video explaining this concept, so go check it out if you think you die too much. Jin, one of the best Valorant coaches, gave a good solution. Go into a deathmatch and bind your W key to your knife as well. That way, whenever you move forward, you will have your knife out. This will force you to learn how to peek angles from the right distance and how to approach angles using A or D without W. The only time you should be pressing W while shooting is if you are trying to run and gun in a close range fight. If you so far found this video helpful, then make sure to drop a like, hit that subscribe button, and join my Discord. It really helps out the channel. We're trying to reach 50,000 subscribers. Now, the third tip I wish I knew was to stop being so hard on myself for losing a game. If you want to enjoy playing Valorant instead of having a horrible time, please listen to this tip. Winning feels so good in Valorant, and losing can make you feel really frustrated. I wish I didn't care about winning and losing when I first started playing. This causes so much extra anxiety, fear to queue, and every time you're down a few rounds, you start to think about losing your elo. My advice to you is to please stop caring about losing. To be clear, this doesn't mean that if you're losing, you just give up and move on to the next game. It means that no matter the score, try to have fun. Having fun is under your control. You can choose to feel like a sore loser, be upset, and get into useless fights with teammates. Or you can choose to not get upset, make jokes with your teammates, and have the team laughing while also trying to win. You need to be serious to rank up, but that doesn't mean you can't be lighthearted as well. There will be games where you play badly, where you will have horrible teammates, and where you will face smurfs. You will lose. And guess what? That's just Valorant. And if you're not willing to accept that, then you will keep hating the game. At the end of the day, you will still reach your goal rank if you're putting in the effort. You just gotta be patient and choose to have fun instead of making yourself miserable for no reason. So please, stop being so hard on yourself for a loss or being afraid to queue just because you don't want to lose. No matter how good you get, you will still lose games. So learn to make your experience a good one. This is tough, and the reality is that all of us will still experience some level of frustration. I mean, I still hate losing, but the goal is to minimize that frustration and instead enjoy your time by not taking the game too personally when things are going wrong. If your goal is to rank up, then your focus cannot be on winning or losing. Your focus needs to be on figuring out your mistakes and learning how to correct them. Winning and losing is just a part of the game that you will eventually forget about, and you'll sort of find it silly for caring about it so much. The fourth tip I wish I knew was how to rotate better in Valorant. This is truly an underrated concept, mainly because it varies per game. Let me explain to you why rotations are so important in Valorant. In theory, when you play defense, you have an inherent advantage that the enemies have to come to you. In general, it's easier to get kills holding a choke point than it is to push through a choke point. However, once the attackers get on a site and have planted the spike, the roles reverse. Now you as the defender need to push through a choke point and the attackers need to hold them. So your immediate goal as a defender is to avoid getting into a post plant situation. While this is obviously not possible to do every round, rotations are key to avoiding these post plant situations. In general, the more defenders you can have stacked on the site the attackers are about to hit, the higher the chance you have for winning that round. So if you rotate at the right time and stack the correct site just before the attackers execute, you will have a much easier time securing rounds. But how do you know when to rotate and when you shouldn't? Well, that's the tricky part, because it depends on both your team composition, the enemy team's composition, and how good your teammates are playing. So there are some general rules you should think about when deciding when to rotate. For example, if you have a sentinel and a smoke player holding one site, then you don't need to instantly rotate. This is because those agents have the ability to stall and may force the attackers to stop their push. In situations like these, you can choose to flank, keep holding your site for information, or proceed to rotate if the attackers are still trying to execute the same site. Now on the other hand, if you have say two duelists holding a site, you should try to fast rotate because those duelists don't have the utility to stall enemies. They will either get an immediate kill, die instantly, or give up the site. Here, rotating faster to stack the site makes more sense. You can even do a fast retake with your team, which can surprise the attackers before they get into post-plant positions. You should also consider the enemy team's composition. For example, if the enemy team is stacked with duelists, then you should try to fast rotate because the enemies will most likely rely on fast hits to take sites rather than slow defaults. But if the enemy team has one or less duelists, they will most likely play a lot slower, try to default, and play through mid. So staying on your site and waiting to rotate until you know it's a commit is usually a better idea. You should also pay attention to the enemy team's playstyle. If they keep hitting one site really easily, you should probably fast rotate. And if the enemy team keeps defaulting, you should stop taking early gunfights and don't rotate so fast. Again, knowing when to rotate is a tough skill, but it's something I really didn't think of when I first started playing the game. And the fifth tip I wish I knew was to stop being too aggressive and feeling desperate to take gunfights. I don't know about you guys, but when I used to get rushed by enemies, my brain would just automatically think that doing an absurdly dumb aggressive peek was the best idea. Don't get me wrong, that can work from time to time, but that's not a good habit. You will get rewarded for being more patient in Valorant. I created this false sense of panic in my head and thought that the best play was to just just become more aggressive. Stop trying to play the game so fast. Slowing down your pace is not the same thing as being scared or not knowing what to do. There is a purpose behind patience. Usually the point of being patient is to capitalize on the enemy team's greediness for peaks or to get a good timing. Some games, enemies will keep pushing out on defense or will keep rushing a site. Instead of trying to ego challenge, just wait for them to come to you. It may feel weird at first, but slowing yourself down and just letting people walk into your crosshair is surprisingly easier than you think. Don't get into a panic mindset where you think you gotta do everything and need to take every gunfight. Chances are you're gonna die early and cost your team some easy rounds. If you find yourself trying to do too much, such as taking too many gunfights, rotating too often, or getting caught with your utility out, then maybe you need to take a step back and play the game at a slower pace. Remember to go pick up a shirt or hoodie from my store to directly support me. I hope these tips will help you improve, and I'll see you in the next one.